Hey yo there, what do you hear, what do you say? Synchron here, and today I'd like to talk about the biggest misconception in science communication. Here's a quick overview, but before I get into that, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe and to let me know your thoughts about what kind of videos you would like me to make next. First of all, there's the introduction. After that is the origins of the biggest misconception in science communication, which is the deficit model. We'll be talking more about that and the key assumptions of the deficit model, the criticisms of the given model, the alternative models of science communications, a given case study, implications, moving beyond the model, conclusions, and of course, the sources and further reading to wrap it all up. So, first of all, an introduction. What is the deficit model? The deficit model proposes that public skepticism or opposition to science stems from a lack of knowledge. It assumes that the more information will lead to a greater understanding and acceptance of scientific findings. This model has historically guided science communication strategies, particularly in areas like public health, climate change, and technology adoption. And why is it important? Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the deficit model can help improve public engagement with science. Recognizing its limitations is crucial for developing more effective communication strategies. Let's give a very brief origin of the model. The historical context is that the deficit model emerged in the late 20th century. It was based on the belief that increasing public scientific literacy would lead to greater acceptance of scientific ideas and technologies. This view was deeply rooted in positivist philosophy, a movement in late 20th century analytic philosophy, which sees scientific knowledge as objective, neutral, and superior to other ways of understanding the world. Government policymakers and scientists widely adopted this approach, particularly in response to public concerns about GMOs, vaccines, climate change, and nuclear energy. The assumption was that opposition stemmed from a lack of knowledge and that providing more facts would resolve public skepticism. The sort of key theoretical foundations is that the model itself is built on the idea of a sort of linear progression. More knowledge leads to better understanding, which leads to increased acceptance. This perspective was influenced by early research on scientific literacy and public attitudes towards science. It suggested that once people learned the facts, they would automatically align with scientific consensus. However, this oversimplified view failed to account for the complex social, cultural, and psychological factors that shape public opinions on science and technology. What are the key assumptions of the deficit model? So the first is the idea that the public lacks knowledge. So the model assumes that the public skepticism or resistance to scientific ideas stems from a lack of understanding. It frames science communication as a one-way process in which experts must educate an uninformed audience. And the second idea is that more knowledge equals greater acceptance. The model is based on the belief that scientific literacy leads directly to trust, that if people are given the right facts, they will inevitably support science-based policies and technologies. However, research has shown that knowledge alone does not guarantee acceptance, as beliefs are obviously shaped by social, political, and cultural contexts. And the third is that science is objective and the public is irrational. The deficit model portrays scientists as neutral, rational experts, while the public is seen as uninformed, emotional, or easily misled. It disregards how values, emotions, identity, and trusts influence people's views on scientific issues. By ignoring these complexities, the model fails to engage meaningfully with public concerns and can even deepen distrust in science rather than resolve it in many respects. So let's go over the criticism of the deficit model. So probably one of the key issues is that it oversimplifies public attitudes. The model assumes that rejection of scientific findings is due to ignorance, but in reality, people's views are shaped by, again, beliefs, values, and identities. Even when individuals understand the science, they may disagree or remain skeptical if it conflicts with their worldview. The second is that it ignores these social, cultural, and political factors. Scientific information is not interpreted in a vacuum. People filter it through personal experience, societal norms, and group affiliations. This means that facts alone are not enough to shape public opinion. And a third is that it fails in real-world applications. Studies have shown that simply providing more facts does not always change minds. Misinformation can persist because it aligns with a person's identity or ideological beliefs, making them resistant to correction. With the supporting evidence being when it comes to climate change, people may acknowledge climate science but reject solutions due to political or economic concerns, vaccine hesitancy. Even individuals with medical knowledge may distrust vaccines due to historical, social, or personal reasons. Genetically modified foods, public skepticism persists despite scientific consensus on safety, influenced by ethical, environmental, or corporate distrust issues. And the sort of paradigmatic example being that even highly educated individuals can be skeptical of scientific claims if they conflict with their political, religious, or cultural beliefs, showing that knowledge alone is not key to acceptance. What are the alternative models of science communication? One of them is the dialogue model. Instead of a one-way transfer of information, this model promotes two-way communication where scientists and the public engage in meaningful discussions. The goal is to listen and understand concerns rather than just simply educating. An example being public forums on climate policy, GMOs, or vaccine mandates, where scientists and citizens discuss risks, benefits, and ethical consideration. Another one is the participation model, where this approach actively involves the public in scientific research and decision making, fostering a sense of ownership and engagement with science. It moves beyond communication to collaboration, with an example being citizen science projects like crowdsourced biodiversity tracking, where non scientists collect data for research, increasing trust and engagement. And the third is the trust-based model. Recognizing that trust is key to public acceptance of science, this model emphasizes relationship building between scientists and communities. It acknowledges that personal values, identity, and social networks shape trust in science. An example being when you use trusted messengers such as faith leaders, community advocates, or local figures to communicate science-based policies in ways that resonate with different audiences. By shifting from deficit thinking to engagement and trust, these models can create more effective, inclusive, and responsive science communication strategies. A case study being climate change communication. Applying the deficit model in climate change communication is very instructive in a lot of ways. So for years, climate change communication has relied on the deficit model, emphasizing the need to educate the public about global warming, rising sea levels, and greenhouse gas emissions. The assumption was that the more information would lead to belief and action. However, this approach just simply doesn't work by itself. Many people understand climate science but still reject its conclusion or resist action. Political ideology, distrust of scientists, and economic concerns often outweigh scientific facts in shaping opinions. Simply presenting data does not address the emotional, social, and cultural factors that influence belief and behavior. So what works better? Research shows that framing climate solutions in ways that align with people's values is more persuasive. For an example being that instead of focusing on rising temperatures, emphasize the economic benefits of renewable energy, so job creation, energy independence, and this resonates more with certain audiences who may sort of feel disenfranchised or left behind if we were to go to a more sort of renewable options route. So to drive real action, science communication must go beyond facts and engage with people's identities, worldviews, and priorities. So what are the sort of implications for science communication more broadly once we discard, just the deficit model by itself? So the key sort of lessons is that we have to go beyond knowledge. Simply providing facts is not enough. Emotions, values, and worldviews shape how people interpret scientific information. Engagement is crucial, right? Science communication should be a dialogue, not a lecture. Encouraging conversation fosters trust and understanding. And trust matters, frankly speaking. People are more likely to accept science when it comes from trusted messengers, whether that's a scientist, a community leader, or someone who shares their own beliefs. Narrative and storytelling, right, is another integral part of it. Facts alone may not be persuasive, but compelling stories, personal experiences, and real-world examples make science more relatable and memorable. An example being encouraging interactive discussions such as town hall, Q&A sessions, and participatory projects instead of just presenting data. By prioritizing trust, engagement, and storytelling, communicators can make science more accessible, relevant, and impactful. So moving beyond the deficit model. So the key strategies for future science communication is combining knowledge with engagement. Facts do matter. Of course they matter, but building dialogue and addressing public concerns are just as crucial. Effective science communication goes beyond just presenting data. It involves active listening and discussion. Include a sort of a wider array of perspectives. Science affects everybody. So communication should reflect different cultural, social, and ideological viewpoints. A more inclusive approach ensures that scientific messages resonate with broader audiences and try to better integrate the social and behavioral sciences. Now, obviously, this has gone drastically better over time, and it almost goes without saying, really, but insights from psychology, sociology, and communication studies can help craft messages that align with how people actually think, process information, and make decisions, and encourage a more participatory approach. Rather than just presenting conclusions, scientists should involve the public in decision-making through citizen science, policy discussions, interactive engagement to foster trust and collaboration, and prioritizing dialogue, inclusivity, and a more social approach. Science communication can become more effective, trusted, and impactful in addressing society's biggest challenges. So in conclusion, the final takeaways are that the deficit model is just simply too simplistic. It assumes that public skepticism comes from a lack of knowledge, but research shows that values, emotions, and identity play a major role in shaping opinions about science. Effective science communication requires more than facts. dialogue, trust, and engagement are essential. Simply providing information is not enough. Scientists must actively listen and connect with their audiences, moving beyond the deficit model. Successful science communication incorporates public values and experiences, recognizing that people's concerns are not just about facts, but also about social, ethical, and personal factors. When it comes to future strategies, the sort of key components, I believe, should be collaboration, storytelling, and trust building. Science communication should emphasize narratives, involve communities in decision making, and use trusted messengers to make scientific ideas more relatable and impactful. Here's a sort of discussion question that I think is very interesting. How can science communicators build trust and engagement with diverse audiences while addressing misinformation and skepticism in fields such as health, environment, and technology more broadly? And here's a sort of sources and further readings. These are a list of sources that I think can be sort of very helpful. And to sort of wrap it all up, I just want to thank you for watching. I hope you found this video insightful and informative. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on science communication and related topics. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, share your feedback on any questions in the comments below. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next Sunday.